Hey Fight fans, it's Michelle Joy Phelps and I'm joined now with the magic man himself, Paulie Malignaggi. We're here in Las Vegas, obviously for the Mayweather-McGregor fight that's coming up this weekend. Paulie, I feel like you and McGregor have made a bigger storyline than Mayweather and McGregor has, right?
Yeah, I think so too. It's kind of taken on a life of its own.
You definitely have opened as the favorite for what could possibly be a future fight. I know you mentioned that you would like to fight him on St. Patty's Day. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I just think it makes sense from a business perspective. I see the Zuffa boxing shirts coming out, so I know they want to start promoting in the U.S. and start promoting with a big splash, right? So I figure, you know, they're starting to move in that direction, and I'm starting to kind of wonder if this was the reason they've kind of planted this seed with me and McGregor so much, you know. Yeah, I did see I opened up as a favorite. I mean, I don't see why I wouldn't open up as a favorite. I think it'd be pretty easy money. But for now, you know, we'll see how McGregor and Mayweather plays out, and we'll see if they continue to push in that direction. But I think a big clue is the Zuffa boxing shirts. You notice Dana White wearing and whatnot. I think there's clearly a push he's going to make into boxing. I know with the UFC being sold, he's going to be out of a job soon, you know, so I think him moving into another world and trying to keep himself relevant in that world kind of makes sense. And I think the Zuffa boxing shirts are the clue as to what direction he's looking to move in. And so another clue as to what kind of a big splash they want to make with the first opening show might be McGregor and Malignaggi. So we'll see.
What type of chance would Dana White have in the sport of boxing with all the other promoters?
It's not easy. It's definitely not easy. You know, I think if you're gonna make a splash in boxing, it's hard in and of itself. And then if you're gonna make a splash and continue having that longevity, like say a top Bob Arum and Top Rank, that's even more difficult. You know, there's highs and lows in boxing. We've seen promotional companies, just in my career alone, I've seen promotional companies grow and fall. You know, in that 15 years that I was a professional boxer. So I think to have the success is hard, but then to have the longevity in that success is also hard. I don't think it's easy. Mixed martial arts, he was kind of the only game in town really, aside from maybe a little bit of Bellator competition here and there. But you know, they bought everybody else out. In boxing, he's going to find that to be very difficult, and he's going to have to abide by rules that he doesn't have to abide by in mixed martial arts, you know, mainly the Ali Act. So I don't think it's going to be as easy as he thinks, but of course, he's a goal-oriented guy, so I'm sure he'll probably go for it with a big push.
All right, let's take this a little back, okay? I know that you and Conor have had words before you ever considered going into camp with him. Why did you make the decision to actually step foot into his camp?
Well, I think because when you have words and you don't fight, it's kind of water under the bridge. I think everybody understands that it's business only and it's not personal. I've had words with plenty of fighters in the past, and then when we see each other, if we didn't fight, we were always hugging and cool. You know, mainly guys like Devon Alexander or Robert Guerrero or even Demetrius Hopkins earlier in my career when I had my first world title.
You mean it's more of like a show, like you just sort of talk crap and then it's...
Not that it's a show. I mean, if you think you're going to fight and you see each other as rivals, you do have a little bit of that edge about you when it comes to that person. But then if the fight never happens, you kind of just realize, it was just business. You know, I mean, it's not personal. What, are you just going to dislike a person, you know? So you kind of just go. So, you know, going by that train of thought, which is the normal person's train of thought, when they called me for camp, I was like, yeah, they're calling me for camp, sure. You know, I didn't even consider the fact that we had words in the past because it really didn't matter to me at that point. It wasn't me and Conor fighting, you know? So it came up, and we kind of agreed to it in theory and whatnot, and little by little, it ended up happening. But yeah, when people talk about that there was words exchanged before, yeah, there's been words exchanged with me and other fighters as well. Sometimes I started it, sometimes the other fighter started it, but never was it ever personal. If we didn't fight, we just hugged and that's it. We were cool, and when we saw each other, we're always cool. To this day, we're always cool. So I figured it was kind of the similar situation with McGregor when his team called me. I think it's a bit creepy to invite somebody you don't like into your camp. You know, I think it's a bit weird. There's a little bit of a weird, like, fetishy kind of weirdness and creepiness to that. I don't know where he got off on that. I would never invite somebody that I don't like into my training camp. I would never risk that, you know. So
in hindsight, do you look back and you think, maybe I did overlook those, like, certain things?
Yeah, I overlooked it because it's not normal to do that. So, you know.
Because, I don't mean to cut you off, but basically in the very beginning, I know that there was rumors circulating that Conor was only inviting you into camp to, quote, embarrass you or whatnot.
Yeah, but that's just fans. You know what fans say on social media? They don't know anything. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many things fans say, and then you realize, you know, so a lot of times you know the truth behind closed doors, and so many fans assume so many things. When you know so much and then you realize what fans say, you get used to them not knowing anything. anything. You know what I'm saying? So when you start hearing things like that on social media, I kind of took it in stride because, typically they don't know anything. I mean, granted, even then, I think they were just assuming. They just happened to show that they assumed right, and I didn't. But I never take what the regular generic fan is talking about, because for the most part, I know things that they don't know, and so I know they're wrong.
Now, recently, there's been a lot of videos circulating about Conor's warm-up tactics. The Conor McGregor challenge and whatnot. What did you make of people sort of poking fun at that?
I think the warm-up is fine. Listen, I mean, everybody warms up in ways that are very different. I've had different conditioning coaches that have had some pretty unique warm-up sequences and whatnot. So, I mean, yeah, we can all laugh and poke at it, but I get the warm-up, and I understand where it's coming from as far as getting the blood flowing and whatnot. It's when you actually see him work out that is more laughable than anything else. The warm-up is fine. I mean, even if it's a little bit of a different warm-up, I think the warm-up there's a point to it. I think it's when you see him hit the bag and when you see him shadow box and when you see him, and then you see all this and you realize, what is his plan? What is this exactly going to do? And then you hear him talk. Oh, he thinks he can punch, so that's what it is. He thinks none of this matters. The fact that he doesn't know how to throw a punch, the fact that he doesn't know how to shadow box, the fact that he looks ridiculous hitting a punching bag. He thinks he's just going to land the punch and it's going to be over. Like, I mean, that's the guy that the guy in Starbucks should think. That's not that's something that a professional fighter should think. I think a professional fighter is supposed to know a little bit better than that. But here we are, this far. We gotten this far. You can't tell him wrong. So we'll find out on Saturday night.
There's a certain, code that fighters have to go by, right? Like when you're in camp with people, there's a certain level of respect that you're supposed to show everybody in camp, because you're all there to sort of achieve one goal, and that's to see the guy you're sparring, win. Yeah. Now, do you feel disrespected by the outcome of everything? Do you feel like they just went against the bro code, I guess, the team code?
I think it's disrespectful in general, but if it was at least true, I'd say, man, I got myself into that one, and I fell for it, and at least it's true. And if it was at least the truth, I could live with it. You know what I'm saying? I'd say, I'd be unhappy, but I'd say, man, I set myself up for that one. But I don't know. I felt like the guy was gonna suck when I got there. I mean, he didn't suck, but I wasn't really exactly impressed with him anyway, when I got there. So the fact that this bum is making like he's dropping people in camp now, or in sparring. You know how hard it is to drop somebody in the gym? I mean, I've been in gyms, two of the best gyms in the world that were breeding just champions left and right, like a factory, a new wildcard gym in Gleason's gym is where I spent years training, and these gyms at the time I was training at them were like a factory of champions, and even then with all the gym wars you used to see with big gloves and big headgear, you usually don't see knockdowns. Very rarely do you see it. Once in a while even, if you do see, you did see them here and there, but it wasn't very often. So this guy just figures like he's gonna come in, and this imaginary power that in his mind he has and that his fans think he has, suddenly he's gonna start dropping guys and sparring on a regular basis in his first training camp. In his first training camp against the best guy he has in camp, he starts dropping them. It's almost like fairy tale-esque, but everybody wants to believe it. He knows he's lying. I mean, you see the video, you can pretend how you want it on the video, even with great editing. I mean, and they cut the camera angle so perfectly that even at first speed, when I saw it, I was like, wait a minute, this did not happen this way. I had to really slow it down to figure out nothing was landing. And, when you put all the common sense together, that's ultimately would probably bother me more, because if it was at least true, I'd still think it's disrespectful, because I've had gym wars with some of the best fighters in the world that you would never hear about, you know what I'm saying? And through the years, and there's just stories that stay in the gym. I have them recorded on cameras. I have sparring sessions with champions from early in my career, recorded on cameras that I never shared and never will share with anybody unless they're my friends and they're in my house. You know what I'm saying? It's that kind of code, you know what I'm saying? Let alone when it's fake. Are you that insecure that you feel like in order for people to believe in you, you have to generate this kind of fraudulent thing? I don't know. I take it when I look at the character, Usually fighters know not to lie because the truth comes out on fight night. So you can't lie in this sport because the truth of what you are and who you are and what you're going to do comes out on fight night. I know what he is. At heart, he's got no balls. I know it. He showed it in the Nate Diaz fight, and he showed it in sparring. I know this guy. I am telling you, I look at you in the camera and will tell you straight up, Conor McGregor has no balls. In round one, he's a big shot, just like every fighter's a big shot. But when the shit gets tough and the going gets hard and he realizes he has to suffer to get through the moment, he has no balls. He looks for a way out. And I'm telling you, Saturday night, I question when we get past round 6 what he's going to be doing, because I've seen it with my own eyes, and then I've also seen it in his fight with Nate Diaz. He looks for a way out.
Now, I know that you've mentioned that he has dirty fighting tactics. Can you explain exactly what those are?
Well, you can see it in the video, you know, a lot of pushing down, a lot of rabbit punching, things like that. I think, you know, he's not going to get himself disqualified with knees or elbows or kicks, but I think you have to keep an eye out for the other stuff to get himself disqualified for, because that's a way of getting yourself out of the fight without saying I quit, you know? Constantly pushing down the head, constantly rabbit punching. There's an interview with Dana White, so he confirms it himself, where he says Conor lost 2 points in the last sparring with me for pushing the head down and rabbit punching. I think Dana's an idiot for even exposing that, because now people are going to be onto it. But they were not real points because there's no scorecards. But since Joe Cortez was to referee a fight of the sparring, just like it's a fight, he has to stop the action, break, whatever, do whatever, and take points when necessary. He took 2 points from McGregor in that last sparring session. Here's the thing. A mixed martial artist has an instinct to grab you inside. In boxing, inside fighting is the opposite. You know, you're not really supposed to grab, but it's really rough inside because you can be hit with every single shot. Body shots, head shots, uppercuts, hooks to both the body and the head. So there's a panic mode if you're not used to being inside, and then all of a sudden you're inside in range of every single shot against a guy that's dangerous, you know? So your panic mode will automatically want to make you grabs or smother or whatever, you know? You know, it's not easy to learn to fight on the inside in boxing. It takes years. So this guy who doesn't have any experience, he's going to grab, and that's what he constantly does, and that's what you see in the video. Even in the part of the video where it's clipped from round 12 when he lands a big left hand, what does he do after? He falls in. He falls in instead of trying to follow up. And then of course we break and he starts throwing hammer punches and all that other stuff. But you land a good shot like that, you're supposed to be able to follow it up, do something. Instead, he grabbed automatically. He has a panic to him when he's close on the inside. And I think it's important. The referee's going to come really into play on Saturday night. And like I said, this could have all been something that nobody would have known, and we would have found out on fight night, and the referee would have been kind of shell-shocked by it. But because the idiot put out the video, now people can see it. And because the idiot had Dana White as a spokesperson talking about how he lost 2 points in the sparring, now everybody knows about it. So all of a sudden, the idiot brought his only couple of chances he had to survive, because I don't think he wins the fight, but at least to survive some rounds, the holding and the wrestling will allow him to survive some rounds. And now you're gonna have a referee who's gonna be onto it from round 1.
Dana White has said that Conor McGregor hits like a truck. Does he?
He hits like the Tonka trunk you buy at home when you're a little kid. You know, maybe it's more like that. You know, like if I hit you with a Tonka trunk from far away, you know, you'll feel it a little bit. You know, remember they made a little bit of metal. You know, like if I throw it at you, you might feel it a little bit. So you know, you feel it a little bit. You know, but I don't know if he's talking about the 18-wheelers outside. No, he doesn't hit anything like that. No.
So how would you rate his power on a scale of 1 to 10?
You know, with 10 being the hardest, and you know, you say 5 being average. I'd say 6, 6.5, you know.
He says that he's going to take Floyd Mayweather out within 4 rounds. A lot of people have had a good laugh over that one. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I saw that. I saw he's going to take him out within 4 rounds, and he's going to be down in round 1. And he said that if Floyd takes it to him, he's going to be done in 2 rounds. He changed the prediction from 4 to 2. I think he's living in denial. I think he's living in... it's like an ignorance is bliss sort of a place. I think to take Mayweather, he thinks like he's the kind of guy where he hits somebody and they're out. You know, I think it's going to be very difficult to land the shot that's going to do that. I think if he lands the shot, he's going to find that nobody goes anywhere because he doesn't hit hard enough for him to actually be out like that. Not to say that nobody can not get a knockout, because anybody can have a one-punch knockout. Even me, that I didn't have a lot of knockouts in my career. I had a couple of one-punch knockouts early in my career. So it's not that it's not that it's impossible. It's just not that easy when you don't hit like Golovkin. You know what I'm saying? So I think even if he does land, which I don't see him landing very cleanly very often, or if at all, it's not going to be very early at that. You know, I'll tell you what. I think Floyd's going to take the fight to him. If Floyd takes the fight to him and Floyd sees he can punch, maybe Floyd stops taking the fight to him. I think that's your first clue right there with how hard Conor McGregor punches, because you can feel it even on your gloves. And Floyd's blocking. If somebody's punching hard, you'll feel it on your gloves, and you'll realize, okay, I got to watch with this guy. Maybe I shouldn't take it to him that way. I think you'll get the answer for yourself early in that fight if Floyd is blocking shots as he's trying to walk Conor down, a la Zab Judah, because that's what I feel like he's going to do, and like the Zab Judah fight. I think he's going to try to walk him down, and I think the shots on the gloves, you'll see if Floyd starts to respect the power or if he continues to walk him down.
If I remember correctly, Manny Pacquiao landed 21% of his shots, and Canelo landed 19% of his shots, and those are world-class, elite fighters. What percentage do you think that Conor McGregor could possibly land on Floyd Mayweather, who's so elusive?
I don't like to punch stats because I don't believe them. I think it's just a guy playing Nintendo. Which it is. It's just a guy pressing buttons. His interpretation. I'd rather trust my eyes at what's landing and what's not. I don't even think those guys landed that high of a percentage. I really don't. And if they did, it was probably partial shots landed, and you don't see the strength of how cleanly those shots landed. I mean, those two guys can punch. If those two guys really landed that percentage of shots, Floyd would have actually been hurt. You know what I'm saying? So, no, they didn't even land that much of a percentage of shots. And whatever percentage they did probably didn't land very cleanly at that. So another thing that stat doesn't keep in mind is how cleanly the shot landed. Or, sometimes it only lands partially and whatnot. You're still crediting it, right? So I don't think it's going to come in that simple, But I'll tell you where Conor may land here and there when he holds and hits with his arm punches, which the crowd, and this is how you're going to know if there's an ignorant crowd or not. They'll start cheering with that, but you're getting nothing on those shots. You're holding in one hand and you're arm punching with the other hand. There's absolutely nothing on those shots at all. You're actually wasting more energy doing that than you are actually taking away from your opponent. I think early on in the fight, I think you might see some of that because the guy holds a lot and holds and hits a lot, and especially early on, he's out of his confusion. I think there's going to be a lot of holding when he sees Mayweather constantly walking him down, and he's going to go into his mode of why is this guy walking me down. So I think you may see some of that early in the fight, and so the referee again will have to have his work cut out for him.
All right, Paulie. Well, thank you so much for taking time, clearing the air, always outspoken and entertaining.
About that sparring session, you notice the only guy not talking is the only guy that was neutral at that session, and that's Joe Cortez. They gagged him. That's the only guy that can really be neutral out of that sparring session. Notice he hasn't been allowed to say a word. So anybody else's word from that sparring session is pro McTapper, and you're not going to get any real information out of them, So we'll see if they release the footage unedited. We'll see if they release the footage out of one camera angle, which is the only way you can get it unedited. You just do no work. Just put the footage out with one camera angle. Because if you're changing angles, we don't know what round you're changing it to if you're changing rounds and whatnot. So to ask you to do no work, I don't think it's too much of a problem. Asking you to do no work is just put it out on one camera. That's no work. To edit it is to work. To change camera angles is to work, right? So I'm asking you to do less of the work if you're going to put it out. Having said that, Cortez, unfortunately, I don't think you're going to get to hear him talk. And you probably have to ask yourself, why are they gagging Cortez? I think if you use an intelligent part of your brain, you'll probably figure out why Cortez is being gagged.
Very good point. Well, thank you so much, Paulie. I appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing your commentary this weekend on Showtime. Are you going to be doing some stuff for Sky as well?
Yeah, I have some Sky Sports stuff. I did some stuff with them today. I got some stuff to do with them tomorrow. And, of course, the commentary. I know a lot of people are wondering how I'm going to call this fight. Listen, I'm going to call this fight the way it is. I always give X's and O's. I don't give really opinion-based analogies and commentating. But I think you'll also see a lot of what I'm saying is going to happen on Sunday, and then you're going to be happy at least somebody was blunt about it, when it's all over, you're going to be happy at least someone was blunt about it, I know it's offensive a lot of times to people who want to Conor McGregor fans, but it's better to be knowledgeable and to know what you guys get into. I was a big Arturo Gatti fan, but even I knew when he was fighting Floyd he was going to get hammered, and I was a big Arturo Gatti fan, so I think it's good to be a fan of somebody, but it's also good to have a realistic sense of who your guy is and who he's not.
All right, Paulie. Thanks for your time. I appreciate you. Bye, fight fans. Hey, fight fans, it's Michelle Joy Phelps. Just before a big fight, I'm often asked, what are the odds? Like, who should I put my money on? Who do you got? It just makes sense for me to tell you guys that you should go visit Bovada. The link is in our description box. Just click it and you'll be directed right over to them. And also, if you haven't already subscribed to my YouTube channel, I'd appreciate it if you did. Just click right here.